You're listening to Greener Lawn, Happier You, produced by Weedex Lawn Care. Join us as we explore all things related to your lawn. Whether you're a seasoned professional, like we are, or you're just starting out, this show is for you. So sit back, grab a drink, and let's grow together. Welcome to the Greener Lawn, Happier You podcast presented by Weedex Lawn Care. I am Nick.
I am Brennan.
Hi, Brennan.
Hey, Nick. So this is a kind of sweet but sad week for Weedex Lawn Care. Nick's been with us, I think, going on like 5 years or just a hair over 5 years.
A little over 5 years now.
And Nick, if y'all don't know this, we've talked a little bit about our personal lives on this podcast. But our location, our main office is located here in Lewisville, Texas. And Nick and his family live about, an hour and a half away from here in, what's the city called or near?
Valley View.
Valley View.
Yep.
So it's almost up towards Oklahoma, if you're familiar with the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He lives closer to Oklahoma than he probably does Lewisville, which Lewisville is probably about 30 minutes north of downtown Dallas, maybe depending on traffic.
Yeah.
So anyways, Nick is a service manager. He as well does all of our chemical fills, so he has to get here pretty early in the morning.
I do.
And it's just, taking a little bit of toll on his family. But I'll let Nick, explain further, like where he's going in his life and the next steps that he's taking on.
I am embracing the King of the Hill lifestyle. I will be in the propane and propane accessory business.
You just need to borrow our general manager's voice and demeanor.
Rusty,
yes. He embodies him. You're going to embody him in employment.
I did think about that.
He embodies him in like demeanor and as well voice.
Yeah.
Because he's very, he sounds identical to Hank Hill.
Yeah, he does.
And he kind of carries himself like Hank Hill.
He definitely does.
So, that would be a perfect job for Rusty. But I can't lose Rusty and you. So, it's going to be hard enough to lose you. But again, we've cared for you so much here at Weedex Lawn Care. This is, obviously not an easy thing for you to do or an easy thing for me to accept, but I also understand that, family becomes before professional. And I know that this is the right thing for you and your family. And I know as a Christian, you've prayed over this. And Nick and I haven't even really had a chance to talk a lot about this.
Yeah. Because
it's an emotional thing when you've worked with somebody for 5+ years, where now it's like you see him 5 days a week,
Yep.
And now I'm not going to see Nick maybe that much at all anymore. That's just how life goes. We're busy. We both have big families. We're both going to be, Nick's going to be busy in his new career. Obviously, Weedex Lawn Care is always busy. So, I don't think Nick and I will separate from our lives, but just definitely not the way it was before. So it is an emotional thing.
Yeah, it is. And it was very bittersweet for me as well. This is home. And it has been home for a long time.
Especially, when you've dedicated as much to this company as you have over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know, you being a Christian, that you and your family prayed over this. And if this is the answer that God gave you, then, do it with your whole heart.
We prayed over this for about a year.
Yeah.
It took about a year.
That doesn't surprise me with knowing you.
Yeah. So it's definitely the right move.
So I guess lastly, I just want you to end with, our current listeners and our future listeners with what you would give them as advice for someone looking for a lawn care company or just a do-it-yourself, or what they need to be doing, and just kind of sign out with that.
Okay. If you're looking for a lawn care company, find somebody that you trust. I think we run into a lot of burnt customers that don't trust their lawn care providers. If trust is an issue for you, then find another lawn care provider. If you're doing it yourself, mow and water.
Yeah.
That's it.
We're not going to end the podcast either. This is something that we want to keep doing. We're going to bring in another turf service manager that's been with the company for 8 years now. So Kaven is, recently moved into this position. He was, one of the veteran kind of route managers in Grand Prairie, because he helped manage a lot of the day-to-day there as well. Now we've brought him up here to Louisville, not just to do the podcast, but he's helping with a lot of quality control, as well as, doing some service manager work, but really just really ingrained in quality control of our route managers. Training them, making sure they're providing the best service possible. So he's going to step into the role of doing the podcast with me, so that way, I don't have to bore all of our listeners and future listeners all by myself.
It's hard to do it by yourself. I've tried to do self-podcast before. It's hard to have a self-conversation.
Not for me, Nick.
Well,
I think we both know that I don't have an issue with talking and filling in a lot of time just by myself.
Yeah, you might be good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kaven's great. You guys will like Kaven. I love Kaven.
Maybe I'll have to be more considerate to Kaven being able to speak a little more than I did with you.
I think we started to find a good balance towards the end there. So
something that I'll have to definitely keep in mind with him.
Yeah, you'll find your flow with him.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna leave y'all with that. We wish Nick the best of luck in his future endeavors here at Weedex Lawn Care, and we'll see you here in a couple more weeks when Kaven and I get at you. So signing off, I'm Brennan.
I'm Nick. Goodbye, y'all.
Welcome to another episode of the Greener Lawn, Happier You podcast. I'm Brennan Weir, and beside me, I know you see a new face. So this is my new co-host. We're changing it up on y'all, making y'all guess a little bit at what we're doing here. And my new co-host is Kaven Chapman. I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit. Go ahead, Kaven.
All right, well, my name's Kaven. I've been with Weedex for a little over 8 years now. I've been doing a lot of just overall lawn care stuff for a combination of probably 12 or 15 years.
So what did you do? Like, we're going to go into your life story a little bit. Like, we'll start from you being a wee little tyke all the way up till where you are now. Talk about your passions, like what you like to do, like in your day-to-day life, outside of work. Maybe what your goals are, what drives you at Weedex, what got you into lawn care. So you've been at Weedex 8 years. I know you've recently come into a new position that's, I'll be the first one to admit, since, I'm in the position that I'm in, it's a way and well-deserved and way overdue. So you can describe that a little bit, and then we'll get into a little bit of just me interviewing you on your life story and journey.
Okay. With the new position, it's kind of changed a little bit as I've gone into it. It was supposed to be more of, service calls for lawn problems and things like that, which have gone into more of a training role, as far as just getting everybody in the right culture as far as what Weedex is doing.
Yeah. So we hired, prelude to that a little bit, we hired Kaven as an additional turf service manager. And a turf service manager at Weedex Lawn Care is someone that is able to go out and give advice or resolutions on issues outside of our normal services from our route managers, the normal recurring services that they do year round. So if a customer delves into an issue in between a treatment, they can call the office. The office will schedule a visit or put in a visit to our CRM that a scheduler will schedule for them to make a visit. And we were just in need, as the growth with our company, of another turf service manager to do that. But it's kind of, in the interim, played its role a little bit differently. We've been using Kaven to do something that he's already been great at for a while, which is training. Not just new route managers, but existing route managers. So like what most people might think of it in the lawn care arena is technicians. We call them route managers here at Weedex Lawn Care because they are managing an entire route, customer base, all the ongoings of that, route and the lawns that are within inside of it. So we want to be more proactive instead of reactive with our philosophy here at Weedex Lawn Care, and we're using Kaven as the building block for that to make sure that our route managers are being able to delve in or dive into these problems prior to our customers having to call in to the office to generate that service call. We would rather take more of a proactive stance on that with our turfs or our route managers instead of our turf service managers having to go out there and facilitate those resolutions with that customer. Mm-hmm. So I guess I can let you speak a little bit of like what maybe you're working with our route managers the past, I would say, month and a half or 2 months. What have you been kind of delving in with them?
I mean, multiple things. It's not just, one thing that we're delving into, but I mean, a big portion of it is communication is going to be the biggest part of it. I think that's a big part of just anything, because it's not just anything that we do in particular. It is a combination of what we do as well as what the customer can do as well, because it's a partnership, and that's the biggest thing that everybody has to learn, is that we have to work together to get a common goal. So that's probably the biggest portion. And then also just not letting anything pass by. If there is a problem, you have to address it and then give your resolution. We've had, plenty of things that have kind of just gone through that weren't really talked about. And that's just the easiest part, is getting to it right away. That way we can get that recovery if there is an issue, and then move forward with a good standing.
And we're doing this in a realm, I know most of our podcasts, we've started this podcast and we want to continue down the path of this being not for the LCO, the lawn care operator. We want this podcast, and that's kind of how Nick and I started it, and I know you're coming into it maybe without all the information you need.
Maybe.
Kaven's been really, really busy just out in the field every day, educating and training our route managers, but we're building this this podcast on the platform where the DIYer can use our information to give them a better established lawn, or the DIYer knows what type of lawn care company to go after, what their red flags are, what the green flags are, or, whatever you want to call that. So that's, there's a lot of lawn care podcasts out there that are industry specific podcasts, but there's not a lot of podcasts out there that are for the person that's wanting to tackle these lawn issues on their own, or know what type of things to look for when they're going to hire a lawn care company, because there's so many options, especially in our market here in Dallas-Fort Worth. So definitely that's how we're building this podcast and what we're using it for, the platform. But from time to time, we will delve into the things that we're personally dealing with here with Weedex. And it's an open door. Like, we're going to share like what our problems are and how we're tackling them here. So you will get that here on this podcast. So to back up a little bit, let's go into like where you were born, where you were raised, what kind of things you were into as a kid, high school, middle school, elementary school, like what type of problems did you give your parents, and like kind of the journey past adolescence that led you here.
Okay, fair enough. Well, the beginning would be starting in a small town in Kansas called Beloit. I don't know if there's even 1,000 people in that town, so just your typical small town in Kansas. Just a
farming community.
Farming community, absolutely. So,
what did your parents do in Kansas?
My dad worked for the water plant, and then mom was a babysitter. Okay. So, daycare type thing. Mm-hmm. So it was just tons of kids in the house, or just out and about as usual. I mean, in a small town, you don't get a whole lot to do, so you're out making your fun. Okay. So it's just, I've always been an outside type person.
I don't know why I always thought you told me your dad was a chiropractor.
He is a chiropractor now.
Okay, I was like, I didn't think I was getting that wrong. I was like, yeah, I thought it was somewhere. I was like, I thought you told me he was a chiropractor. So he's a chiropractor now.
Yeah, so at that water plant is when he made a decision to go back to school and just kind of make a better life.
And that's not easy.
It is not, with 2 kids and then, wife and everything else. And then
even without kids, I know my cousin is a chiropractor here in DFW, mm-hmm. and I know it's just as much or pretty equal to the amount of same schooling that you have to do to be a physician.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it took him, 12 years or so, because he had to go back to junior college, get associates or whatever mm-hmm. it is, and then go into chiropractic school from that point. So that whole time up until almost I was in probably 6th or 8th grade, something like that, is when he actually started working as a chiropractor.
That's got to be awesome to see your dad do something like that to better his family, mm-hmm. make life decisions like that. So I would imagine your dad is your hero then.
100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I get a lot of my motivation from, is like, I know I can always do more. He did way more than I'm doing right now. I have 0 children. So, knowing how hard that was, that's a huge motivating factor to know that no matter how much I think I'm doing, I can always do more.
What were your interests growing up in Kansas? Like, what did you dive into in school or extracurriculars?
Well, school wasn't I didn't really care too much about school, so the main focus would have been sports. So that was just everything. I mean, I've always been extremely hyperactive. That didn't change in high school. So whatever it was to get me through school to motivate me would have been sports.
Yeah, just all arenas. Because I know you're an avid golfer now.
Yeah, avid golfer now, but it was basically basketball from 6th grade all the way through high school. That was the main focus, and that was AAU throughout the summers, and then, basketball throughout the rest of the year. Track, golf. I did football my freshman year, but almost died of an asthma attack, I decided that wasn't for me.
Yeah, especially Kansas. I mean, I would imagine it's still hot. I'm really hot in Kansas. Yeah. Real humid.
We get a lot of rain, so it gets humid. You bet.
So what would you say were the motivations to get into lawn care, or like what did you do right after high school? What were the feats that you tackled?
Right after high school, I did a freshman year. I was going to try to be a chiropractor, but pre-med was a little too advanced for my type of knowledge. So I went into car audio, got certified, and did installations, sales, things like that for about 10 years total. So that was...
Where all did you do that at?
I did that I got certified over in Holly Hill, which is by Daytona.
Florida.
In Florida. And then basically got a job directly after that in a little town called DeLand.
Yeah, that's got to be a big change going from Kansas, small town, rural Kansas, to Daytona, Florida.
Yeah, so I originally had a scholarship to go to school for a vocal scholarship in DeLand, a vocal scholarship.
Like choir?
Yeah, for choir.
I did not know you were a singer.
I was.
Because we have something that we're wanting to do for our podcast. We want to cut a like a spoof on "Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys" by Willie Nelson. "Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Lawn Techs."
That's
so
hilarious.
You can do the audio. I did not know you were a singer.
I'm not anymore, so that might be a tough pull.
You can knock the rust off of those pipes, Kaven. Abby and I can direct the lyrics, and then you can sing for us.
That's going to be a tough one.
We can use, what is it? Where you can audio tune it. Yeah, we can audio tune it.
Sure.
Because my voice is horrible. I have no musical talent in me whatsoever. Even my own kids tell me to quit singing.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see if we can hold a tune for you.
So what led you? Because I know when I hired you, God, that seems like so long ago. You were doing golf course maintenance. What led you into golf course maintenance?
It was just a job at the time. It was when I moved down here. I couldn't get into car audio right away, so I was just kind of taking any job that I could get at the time. And Steve, one of the previous employees, wanted to try to get me on here. And I went into the golf course stuff just because, I love golf, so it was a way for me to play for free as well as just be around there. I had done some landscaping and stuff for a few years previously as well, irrigation, all of that through the same company up in Kansas City.
And I've never worked on a golf course. I've been around a lot of, greenskeepers, golf course head superintendents and all of that. And I think they pay their superintendents pretty well, but not for all the headaches that they have to, withstand. But I know they pay their laborers just horrible.
It was horrible.
wages.
It was $10 an hour.
Yeah, they don't take care of their employees at all. You might make some more money if you work on more of the prestigious courses, but again, I know especially if they have tournaments on those courses. Yeah. Because Rusty, our general manager, was the superintendent at Four Seasons here in Dallas or Irving, and then he opened up some courses for Disney out in Orlando. And he just talks to me about how they treated their employees. It's like our guys think that they work a lot of hours, but if you go through a tournament like Byron Nelson or whatever, you go all week without sleep. And then
in
the week
prep
prior
up into
to it, and then
Absolutely.
after, and
Because we did that at Tiburon.
Yeah.
It was a Club Corporation that owns a lot of these courses, and then we would go to the LPGA course over there in Las Colinas and help them get prep for that.
I'm sure y'all had a lot of pros playing on y'all's course. I think I know that.
Oh
course,
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's their home course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you're here at Weedex. I know your fiance, or we can call her your wife.
Yeah, she's the wife. Yeah.
Works here at Weedex as well. So you're building a family here, and I know, again, I'll take that on my shoulders. Long overdue a promotion here, but I'm so excited to where the future holds, or what the future has to hold for you. I know you and I haven't had a chance to work closely together in probably 6 or 7 years, and I haven't had the chance to express this to you, except now I'm gonna just do it. I'm just gonna let my emotions spill over on this podcast.
Let it go.
But the past month and a half or 2 months, getting to work with you and getting to just listen to your ideas and your passion that you have for what we're doing here, the vision that I hold, the vision that I know that you hold dear to your heart, has given me such joy that I don't know how to express to you in other words, but it really just it warms my heart up to know that you care as much as you do, and that you're willing to do everything you can to ensure that Weedex is successful, but not just the company, that every one of these employees that we have working here for us is successful as they can be, with their journey with our company, because that's all I'm about too. In this position I am here at Weedex Lawn Care, that's all I care about now. I mean, obviously I care about our customer, but caring about our employees is caring about our customer.
Absolutely.
With our vision and culture that we put forth here at Weedex Lawn Care, and I know how dear you hold that to your heart. And I really appreciate that, Kaven.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I know we did an outro with Nick that will be cut in on this podcast as well. Nick was a vital part of our team for a very long time. But I think that Kaven and I are going to be able to express our ideals about lawn care, how to do it right, how the DIYer can do it right, what to look for in a lawn care company when you're making that decision. We will get into a lot more lawn care related topics as we dive into this podcast. This podcast, I just kind of wanted you, or the viewers, we don't have much. I think we have 25 viewers at this point. Okay. So you're coming in at a perfect time.
Perfect.
There's nothing but forward momentum to
let's blow it up.
Go forward with this. And probably 25 of those viewers are, I would say 50% of them are Weedex staff.
Okay.
And I don't understand why the rest of our Weedex staff doesn't want to listen to you and I talk. It's not like they ever get to hear us talk anyways. Yeah. But nonetheless, it actually is nice to watch some of our new CSR staff. I'm kind of getting on a tangent now. I'll walk past their desk and they'll be having our podcast pulled up, just learning about lawn care. Because again, this isn't industry specific of how an LCO can grow his lawn care company to $1 million, or what the struggles are of a lawn care company. We're here to specifically talk about what you're dealing with currently that time of the year on lawn, what you can, the things that happened prior, the things that are currently going on, and the things that you need to be looking forward to as far as lawn care. And one thing, if you haven't noticed, if you've been living under a rock here in the Metroplex, we've had a lot of rain over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 months. It's just recently subsided as of last week. Yeah. So, Kaven will be the first one to tell you, rain, it slows down production here, but it is a beautiful thing for turf grass. It hides a lot of issues on the lawns, and it just makes even lawns that aren't cared for look great. They just need to be doing a couple things, and it's simple. What is that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's watering and mowing.
Well, watering, and that's what a lot of people, I think you and I just had a conversation in my office over it. With the clay soils that we have here, it's just, you think that you get, a week, 2 weeks of rain, but as soon as that tap shuts off, those soils start to dry out so quickly, especially where the roots of that grass is living in that top inch or two, especially if we're mowing on a weekly basis. So, even though the rains have subsided, we need to turn our irrigation systems back on, get on that, 2 to 3 week watering duration, watering multiple times on each one of those days, cycling and soaking that watering. But the biggest key component is, and I get it, if you're hiring a mowing company, it's hard to, get them out there on a weekly basis right now because they're behind, because of all the water, they can't mow lawns. But mowing weekly is the most key component that you can be doing right now to have a healthy lawn. I'll be driving around in neighborhoods, and 2-3 blocks away, it's a beautiful lawn, and then you drive right up on it, like, oh, okay, well, it's full of weeds, and maybe this is wrong and that is wrong, but like, you can literally have a nice lawn for your neighbors to enjoy, you know, if you're just mowing weekly and then getting back to watering right now.
Absolutely.
Y'all all know my life story, so I won't dive into that anymore. You can listen back to podcast episode 1 if you want to hear a little bit more about that. I don't really have anything else to get into about your life. I mean, do you have anything else you want to share?
I mean, not much. I mean, I'm just really excited for the rest of this year. I mean, getting the opportunity to, you know, a big part for me is like the relationships that we have here at work. I mean, building good relationships. We have a lot of really good young men coming in here, and we have the ability to really make some really good men.
We gotta be PC, young men and women.
Yeah, young men and women. I don't get the contact with everybody or to help them, but in my role, you know, it's all the guys.
If our listeners aren't aware, you know, we are not opposed to hiring women to do lawn care.
We have,
but it is just more of a field where gentlemen typically, you know, look for employment.
Exactly.
But again, you know, if a girl wants to come out, or woman, or whatever you want to say it, and just treat lawns, we welcome you. But again, it's more of a standard men industry. So we'll end the podcast episode. We usually do take 2 or 3 questions off of Facebook. We use Southern Lawn Syndicates to pull up pictures, questions, try to answer them. Again, we do welcome, and I know Abby links in an area on the podcast for people. Again, we have a small viewership right now, to post questions for us, pictures about what they're dealing with. But until the moment comes when somebody actually submits a question, we'll just keep stealing from Facebook.
We can do
so the first one I will go over, and then I'll pass the phone to you, Kaven. So the first image that we're looking at, and I'll also go over the question or the comment on it, is it says, Buddy. So I'm assuming Buddy is not a person named Buddy. Maybe it is, or his buddy, physical friend. One or the other, either Buddy, the name of a guy, or his buddy, applied some 2100 fertilizer. 2100 fertilizer is ammonium sulfate. It's a common derived form of nitrogen that we put on lawns that whether you're a DIYer and you're buying it from Home Depot, Lowe's, Callaway's, ammonium sulfate is in most of your nitrogen blends, but 2100 is straight nitrogen. There's 3 numbers in fertilizer, and it's going to be your macronutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, NPK. So we put down straight nitrogen, ammonium sulfate, and ammonium sulfate isn't going to have a slow release agent to it. It's going to be 100% soluble, ready to go for the plant. And he ferted it a couple of days ago. The yard was looking solid, and then overnight he noticed all these brown spots. Insects, ? Treatment ideas, ? So Kaven and I both looked at this lawn, not saying that fertilizer can't damage your lawn. You know, typically when we see fertilizer damage on a lawn, when you're using, whether it's a slow release granular or a just 100% soluble granular like 2100 ammonium sulfate, is if you had a mechanical failure or you accidentally caught your fertilizer wheel in a pothole in the lawn and spilt fertilizer. But it's typically when you get a concentration, like a large spillage of fertilizer concentrated in an area. But when looking at these pictures, it's pretty uniform to like his mow lines. And even like if you're looking at the flower bed compared to like the main part of the lawn, it looks like there's an undulation or like an elevation change. So to us, it looks more like mower damage. Not saying that drought stress can't present in this manner, but again, depending on when this picture was taken, if it was taken in the last, 2 to 3 weeks, seriously doubt it was drought stress unless it was taken like last summer. But he said it was just a couple of days ago. So I'm assuming it's taken in the last couple of weeks. I would imagine that maybe they weren't able to mow and they missed a mowing or 2. And then they came back out and the grass got up to, 4 or 5 inches tall. And they cut it back down to 2.5, 2.25 inches tall, causing them to what we call is mower burn. But they're cutting too much of the leaf blade off and cutting into the stem and stalk of the plant, which is leaving you this discoloration. So give it 2 to 3 weeks, mow on a weekly basis, and this lawn should recover fine from it. I think that you and I kind of concluded the same opinion on that. Again, keep in mind, we're looking at pictures. We're not boots on the ground, so that's our opinion of it. So I'll pass this one over to you.
And I would even say, generally, if you've dumped fert, you're going to have a circular-ish pattern, or, if maybe we've had the little pin that breaks and it's not spinning as fast, you're going to have a really dark green snake throughout the lawn where that fertilizer is accumulated. There's going to be some sort of a pattern you're going to see.
And that's a heavy concentration of fertilizer, especially with slow release. It's not, and even with 2100, that's a 50-pound bag or whatever you buy it at. Only 21% of that is fertilizer. The rest of it is filler. So with it being filler, it's not going to break down. It's going to be whatever that filler particle was. So in that area where it was dumped, like you just explained, you're going to be able to dig through there and find a lot of that filler concentrate in that area that's not going to dissolve into the soil.
Absolutely.
So you would definitely know if it was burned through, spillage of fertilizer, because you're going to see a bunch of filler, whatever they use for their filler.
Absolutely. The next one here, hello, we removed old St. Augustine from backyard, replaced it with Bermuda 2 months ago recently. Noticed that some spots are more green than others. Does anyone know what could be causing this? And basically, you've got a uniform lawn that is one type of green, and then you've got probably 20, 30 dark green spots, maybe 4 to 6 inches. Obviously, as we talked about this previously, this looks like you have a pet. There's only 1 or 2 things that could probably cause this. Like I talked about, if this was dormant and you had a bunch of green spots, you would have active ants in those areas, usually because of that heat source is keeping that grass green.
That could be, or weeds.
Or weeds.
Yeah, it could be.
Right. But otherwise, this time of year, we're probably going to have that, and what that urine basically transfers into is going to be straight nitrogen.
So, and sometimes what you'll have too is you'll have like where the pet directly urinates at, right in the center of that, and they'll call it like the donut effect. You'll have a dead area of grass where the heavy concentration is, and then outside of that you'll have like a ring of real dark grass.
Real dark green.
So if your pet likes to urinate in the lawn, which where else are they going to urinate? That's where they unless they love to urinate in the house, and that's where you let them urinate. But nonetheless, like all you can do to resolve that is, which would be really taxing and cumbersome, is every time they go pee is go water it down thoroughly.
And I literally just had that conversation with somebody. Now, obviously, some dogs choose one spot over multiple throughout the yard. If you've got one spot, you have to leach that soil. Otherwise, that grass will die. And who knows how long it'll take to recover.
And the only other thing that we talked about is like if you're going through like a drought time, you'll have irrigation heads throughout the yard. And as soon as the irrigation system is done running, if they don't have like maybe a master valve or something but even if you have a master valve, you're still going to have water in those pipes that got to seep out of somewhere. Gravity is going to follow the path of least resistance. It's going to come out of the heads. So like maybe the rest of your yard could be under irrigated, and then those green spots could be where your irrigation heads are, where it's actually seeping out residual water maybe 15 minutes after you shut off your zone. So you'll have a nice little 4 to 6 inch patch of green grass right in that area. But looking at this picture, it would be really ununiform. Like they would have some heads that were like within 2 to 3 feet from one another. So we don't think it's irrigation simply for that fact. But you, as a homeowner, if you're seeing your yard as discolored or like kind of light green, looks like it's starving for, maybe nutrients or whatever, you think, oh, I'll put more fertilizer on it. Well, putting more fertilizer isn't going to resolve the issue when you just need to water more, because the first thing I would look at is go see where all those dark green spots are. Do I have an irrigation head right in the center of it that's seeping out residual water after my zone shuts off?
And you could have multiple things causing that issue. Either sprinkler head's not popping up above the grass level, the mechanism in there is broken, so it's not popping up that direction. I mean, there could be multiple things causing that.
And they make heads.
Too.
They're called SAMS heads, SAMS, and they have check valves on the bottom of the head. But ultimate fix is just to irrigate your lawn enough. Because if you have a check valve in the bottom of the head, when that irrigation system shuts off, it won't allow that water to seep out above the head. But again, like, I mean, literally there's one spot within inches away from each other.
Yeah.
So again, boots on the ground looking at it, we would imagine it's pet damage. So other than that too, this lawn looks like it needs a fertilizer.
Definitely.
I would, if you haven't fertilized yet, I would fertilize this yard, and that could help even out the color on your lawn. And then the last one is, can someone tell me what the gray patches are? Again, we can tell with this sod, it was recently sodded. Was it last fall? Was it this spring? It's hard to tell on that. We can just tell where the sod lines are from when it was sodded. Looking at the gray hue, like if we were, in a time right now where we had had rain in maybe, a month and a half, and we had 95 to 100 degree temperatures, I could say it's a hybrid Tiff Bermuda that, one of those Tiff type or sport Tiffs or hybrid Bermudas, the luxury Bermuda grasses, can get a gray hue as they start to drought stress, because we can see some other patches in this lawn. But if you look at the patches where they're brown, it's right on the sod edge line where new sod typically starts to die off or recede anyways. But looking at the gray hue, one thing that I know Kaven and I discuss is, I don't know if you have like a cottonwood tree in the, vicinity of where your property is at, but cottonwoods obviously bud throughout, spring, late spring, and then when they kind of like winds get higher, they'll spread that kind of cotton fabric and it'll get on your lawn. So like when we're looking at this picture, it kind of looks almost more like it has some fibrous stuff on it. Other than that, without being on the lawn, like, could it be a fungus? It could be like some sort of pythium, because pythium blight will leave like a grayish, like kind of like residue on the lawn, but it's real greasy too. Like if you grab the leaf blade and you like pull it with your hand or just rub it across your hand, you'll get like a real greasy kind of residue on your hand. So it could be a pythium blight if you're just really pouring the water to it. But again, that would just be something where I would have to be on the lawn. But it's not a bad idea if you do that and it's not a cottonwood, fibers on the lawn. You're putting fungicide on there. It can't hurt. Obviously you've got newer sod. Maybe with the rain and you irrigating, you've caused like a pythium blight or a blight to encroach into your lawn. But that would be my only suggestion.
We've seen a little bit of like black sooty mold too, where if you go across it and it's kind of dusty, then you can remove it pretty easily, so it's not a problem. But I've seen a little bit of that lately.
It's just hard to tell with this lawn in the picture exactly what's going on. But that's the questions and the answers that we have for you today. Again, like I said, the podcast moving forward, we'll have more of a planned out structure of like what we've dealt with in the past, what that means right now, and what things, we're looking forward to, dealing with on lawns, whether you're DIY or you're having an issue on your lawn that you want to hire a lawn care company for. So signing out of this podcast, I'm Brennan.
I'm Kaven.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode and that it has provided you with some good tips on how to keep your lawn looking its best. For more, be sure to subscribe to our show and follow us on social media. And remember, a greener lawn leads to a happier you.